press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello students, welcome back to the video classes. Today let us move on to the detection of other elements like nitrogen, sulfur, halogen and phosphorus in the given organic compound. In the previous class we discussed about how to prepare sodium fusion extract and what is the purpose of preparing sodium fusion extract. So what is the purpose? In order to convert covalently bonded elements in organic compound into ionic form so that we can easily detect the ions like cyanide, sulfide and the halide ion in order to detect nitrogen, sulfur and the halogen. So that sodium fusion extract is also called Lasignus test or Lasignus extract. So by using that sodium fusion extract we can easily detect the elements present in organic compound. Let us consider the first one. It is test for nitrogen. So for the test for nitrogen we need to take very small amount of sodium fusion extract in a test tube. We have to take very small amount, that is around 2 ml of sodium fusion extract in a test tube, into which we have to add ferrous sulfate crystals. After adding, we need to boil the mixture. On cooling, we have to acidify it with dilute sulfuric acid. So first we have to take 2 ml of sodium fusion extract, into which we need to add ferrous sulfate crystals. After boiling and cooling, we need to acidify the resulting solution with dilute sulfuric acid. We have to add at the end dilute sulfuric acid. So what happens? So if nitrogen is present in a given organic compound, then Prussian blue color solution or the precipitate appears. Here Prussian blue color precipitate or the solution appears. If Prussian blue color precipitate or the solution appears, then it indicates the presence of nitrogen. It indicates the presence of nitrogen. And remember, so on boiling SFE and the ferrous sulfate crystals, ferrous andre Fe2 plus irate, boil ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ some Fe2 plus ions are get oxidized to Fe3 plus ions. That you had to remember. ಯಾವಾಗ ferrous sulfate crystals na ನಾವು sodium fusion extract ಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ boil ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, during this process few Fe2 plus ions are get oxidized to ferric ions, Fe3 plus ions. That you had to remember. Okay. Now, so what is the reaction takes place during the detection of nitrogen, and what is the composition of this Prussian blue color solution or the precipitate? I have given the reaction here. So this is sodium. When it is fused with organic compound, it combines with both carbon and the nitrogen. These two are present in organic compound and it fuses to give sodium cyanide. That is the sodium fusion extract. What is the composition of sodium fusion extract? When nitrogen is present, it is sodium cyanide. So that reacts with ferrous sulfate to give ferrous cyanide and the sodium sulfate. And this ferrous cyanide again combines with sodium cyanide. This sodium cyanide is from SFE, sodium fusion extract. So ferrous cyanide combines with sodium fusion extract further and it gives sodium ferrocyanide, and it is a complex compound. Its IUPAC name is sodium hexacyanoferrate 2. 2 is the oxidation state of iron, plus 2 state alli irutte, illi tanka. Okay. So sodium ferrocyanide or sodium hexacyanoferrate, and this sodium hexacyanoferrate combines with ferric ions. As already said, some ferrous ions are get oxidized to ferric ion during the reaction, and this sodium ferrocyanide combines with ferric ions and it results in the formation of ferrocyanide. Means in this composition both Fe3 plus and Fe2 plus ions are present, and which combines with the cyanide ion, and thus it gives ferrocyanide. and the IUPAC name is iron 3 sodium hexacyano. This is iron 3 because its oxidation state is +3. Iron 3 hexacyanoferrate 2 is the IUPAC name, and ferriferrocyanide is the common name, and that is the name of Prussian blue color precipitate or the solution. What is the chemical name of Prussian blue color solution during the detection of nitrogen? Ferriferrocyanide or the iron 3 sodium hexacyanoferrate 2. And what is its chemical formula? Fe4 FeCN6 taken thrice. This is a complex compound. Okay, Fe4 FeCN6 taken thrice, and that is the chemical formula, and this is the chemical name. So for the same test, instead of Prussian blue, if you get a Prussian blue, it indicates the presence of nitrogen. So it says that nitrogen is present in a given organic compound. So instead of Prussian blue color, if it gives a blood red color, then it indicates the presence of both nitrogen and the sulfur. It indicates the presence of both nitrogen and the sulfur. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ರೆಡ್ ಕಲರೇಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಸಲ್ಫೈಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲೂ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. So when both nitrogen and sulfur are present, then it gives blood red color for the same test, and that indicates the presence of both nitrogen and the sulfur. So for the same reaction, you can write these two are the ionic reactions for the detection of nitrogen. So when both sulfur and nitrogen is present, what is the composition of SFE? So this is the composition. So sodium fuses with carbon, nitrogen along with the sulfur, and it gives sodium thiocyanate. So thio use ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ATE ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಸಯನೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸಲ್ಫೋ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಸಲ್ಫರಿಗೆ ಸಯನೈಡ್ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, IDE ಅಂತ ಬರಿತೀವಿ. Clear? If you use thio here for sulfur, it ends with cyanate, ATE. If you use sulfo for sulfur, then it ends with IDE, cyanide. Clear? Now when this sodium thiocyanate combines with Fe3 plus ions, ferric ions, it forms ferric thiocyanate or ferric sulfocyanide, and that is the composition of blood red color. So this is the test to detect nitrogen. Okay, now let us move on to how to detect the sulfur. So move on to the detection of or test for sulfur. Second one, move on to the detection of sulfur. Second one, test for sulfur. So there are two tests here. One is lead acetate test. So lead acetate test by using lead acetate, in which take very small amount of SFE, around 2 ml of SFE, into which you have to add acetic acid, which acts as a solvent, and lead acetate. So to the SFE, sodium fusion extract, you have to add acetic acid and the lead acetate. Okay, now if you observe black precipitate here, then it confirms the presence of sulfur. Now what is the reaction in SFE? So sodium combines with sulfur to give Na2S. This is SFE, correct? If sulfur is present in organic compound, it combines with sulfur to give sodium sulfide. So sulfide is the ionic form of sulfur, and this sodium sulfide combines with lead acetate, CH3COO is acetate, taken twice, Pb, because the valency of lead is +2. Therefore, we need to take CH3COO taken twice. This is lead acetate. So, when it is treated with this, you will get PbS. This is black color precipitate with the formation of 2 moles of sodium acetate. 2 moles of sodium acetate. And here you can write the ionic equation. Sulfide ion combines with lead ion, and it results in the formation of PbS, that is lead sulfide precipitate. Here it is a black color precipitate, and these reactions you can write, or you can even write the ionic equation. Okay, so you have to note down these equations. Now second test is called sodium nitroprusside. Sodium nitroprusside test. Very simple. To SFE you have to add sodium nitroprusside solution. So to the sodium fusion extract, very small amount of sodium fusion extract, you have to add freshly prepared sodium nitroprusside. So if violet color is observed, then it indicates the presence of sulfur. If you observe violet color here, then it indicates the presence of sulfur. What's the reaction? So this is from sodium fusion extract, sodium sulfide, which combines with sodium nitroprusside. I'll write the reaction here. Sodium sulfide combines with sodium nitroprusside. This is sodium nitroprusside. It is also a complex compound. So sodium pentacyanoferrate nitrosonium, that is the IUPAC name. Need not to remember the IUPAC name now. You have a complex compound or the coordination compounds in the second year. There you will come across the naming of these compounds. Just to remember sodium nitroprusside, and it undergoes reaction with sodium sulfide to give Na4FeCN5 times NOS. This is sodium thionitroprusside. Sodium thionitroprusside. Sodium nitroprusside gets converted to sodium thionitroprusside, and it is a violet color. So these are the two tests to detect sulfur present in a given organic compound. Okay, now let us move on to the third one. Test for halogens. Okay, now done the reactions. Now test for halogens. So take a very small amount of sodium fusion extract, then you have to add dilute nitric acid into which, then boil the mixture, cool the mixture, then add silver nitrate solution. So, to the very small amount of sodium fusion extract, so this sodium fusion extract should be boiled with dilute nitric acid, and then into which we need to add silver nitrate solution. Here we will get 3 observations. Either you will get Kurdi white precipitate which is completely soluble in ammonium hydroxide or aqueous ammonia, or else you will get Kurdi white pale yellow precipitate which is sparingly soluble. Sparingly means partially soluble. Sparingly soluble in ammonium hydroxide, or else you will get yellow precipitate which is insoluble in ammonium hydroxide. So, whenever the halogen is present in a given organic compound, the halogen may be chlorine or the bromine or the iodine, correct? So, therefore, you will get 3 observations here. You may get Kurdi white precipitate, pale yellow, light yellow precipitate which is sparingly soluble, or you will get yellow precipitate which is insoluble. If you get Kurdi white precipitate, then you can confirm the presence of chlorine. If you get yellow precipitate, pale yellow precipitate, you can confirm the presence of bromine. If you get yellow precipitate, then you can confirm the presence of iodine. But these are the tests for respective their halide ions. This is a test for chloride ion. If it gives a Kurdi white precipitate, in turn it indicates the presence of chlorine in the given organic compound. So, Kurdi white precipitate bandre chlorine, Kurdi white precipitate soluble agutte. So, it dissolves, the precipitate dissolves in excess of ammonium hydroxide and it gives a clear solution due to the formation of diamino silver chloride complex there. So, therefore, it is soluble. But pale yellow precipitate bantu andre, it is bromine and it is sparingly partially soluble in ammonium hydroxide. But if you get a yellow precipitate, it is insoluble in ammonium hydroxide. So, this confirms the presence of chlorine, bromine, iodine. Let us consider what is the composition of this Kurdi white precipitate, pale yellow precipitate and yellow precipitate. Now, if halogen is present, sodium combines with halogen to give NaX, and this NaX, when it combines with silver nitrate, then you will get NaNO3 plus AgX. This is the precipitate AgX. So, silver halide precipitate. Now, you can say if halogen is chlorine, what is the composition of sodium fusion extract? NaCl. What is the precipitate? Composition of the Kurdi white precipitate? AgCl. In place of X, you have to take halogen, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Then what is the composition of Kurdi white precipitate? AgCl. What is the composition of pale yellow precipitate? Silver bromide. What is the composition of yellow precipitate? Silver iodide. So, if chlorine is present, then it is Kurdi white precipitate. The composition is silver chloride, and if bromine is present, it gives a pale yellow precipitate of silver bromide, and if iodine is present, it gives yellow precipitate of silver iodide. Okay, so this is the detection of halogens present in a given organic compound. And one more important question here is, During the detection of halogen, sodium fusion extract is boiled with dilute nitric acid. Why we need to boil sodium fusion extract with dilute nitric acid? The reason for that is, if any nitrogen or the sulfur is present, then sodium cyanide and sodium sulfide present in sodium fusion extract combines with silver nitrate to give silver cyanide and silver sulfide. So white and a black precipitate of silver cyanide and silver sulfide is formed, and they interfere with the observation. ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಾವು ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ silver nitrate, sorry, before adding silver nitrate we need to boil sodium fusion extract with dilute nitric acid. What is the reason ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, so if it is not boiled with nitric acid, so organic compound ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಎರಡೂ ಇದ್ದು ಹ್ಯಾಲೋಜಿನ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ, so sodium fusion extract ಅಲ್ಲಿ not only sodium halide present, it also contains sodium cyanide and sodium sulfide. ಈಗ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ನು ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಲ್ಫರು ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹ್ಯಾಲೋಜನ್ನು ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡಲ್ಲಿ, ಮೂರು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸು ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ 3 ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ನ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಹ್ಯಾಲೈಡ್. Not only sodium halide, it may also contain sodium cyanide and the sodium sulfide. Correct? So when we add silver nitrate, before boiling it with dilute nitric acid, direct agi silver nitrate na add madidre, so sodium cyanide gives white precipitate with silver nitrate, and sodium sulfide gives black precipitate of silver sulfide with silver nitrate. Idu kuda silver nitrate jotege enagutte, react agutte, precipitate formation agutte. Aga namige kardi white precipitate na observe madakagalla, identify madakagalla. Pale yellow precipitate na identify madakagalla, yellow precipitate na ನಾವು identify madakagalla, because white and black precipitate interfere with the observation. ಯಾವಾಗ ವೈಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ, ನಾವು ಇಂಟರ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ, ಆಗ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ದಿಸ್, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ the sodium fusion extract with the dilute nitric acid in order to remove nitrogen and sulfur present in the organic compound. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿರೋ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸಲ್ಫರ್ನ ತೆಗೆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಇಂಟರ್ಫಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಹೇಗೆ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಬೈ ಬಾಯ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಡೈಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ನೈಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಸೊ ಡೈಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ನೈಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಜೊತೆ ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಸಯನೈಡ್. So when it is boiled with dilute nitric acid, nitrogen present in organic compound escapes in the form of hydrogen cyanide gas. Sulfur escapes in the form of H2S gas. A sodium cyanide nitric acid ಜೊತೆಗೆ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆದಾಗ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಸಯನೈಡ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಲಿಬರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೇನೆ Na2S ನೈಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆದಾಗ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಸಲ್ಫೈಡ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಲಿಬರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ removed where it escapes in the form of hydrogen cyanide and hydrogen sulfide. ಎರಡು gaseous state ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ nitrogen escapes in the form of hydrogen cyanide, sulfur escapes in the form of hydrogen sulfide. So this is the detection of halogen. Okay, now let us move on to the detection of phosphorus. Detection of phosphorus. Directly we need to detect the phosphorus. So detection of phosphorus. Okay. So how to detect the phosphorus? First, you have to take the given organic compound and it should be treated with sodium peroxide. Sodium peroxide. sodium peroxide. It acts as an oxidizing agent. So it oxidizes the phosphorus present in the organic compound to phosphate. Respective phosphate means it converts phosphorus present in organic compound to sodium phosphate, Na3PO4. Na3PO4. Then the resulting solution must be boiled with nitric acid and it undergoes reaction to give phosphoric acid with the formation of NaNO3. You have to take 3 moles here and 3 moles of NaNO3. Then it should be treated with it should be treated with ammonium molybdate solution. It should be treated with ammonium molybdate solution. So what is the composition of ammonium molybdate solution? 12 moles of ammonium, NH4, ammonium. You have to write ammonium molybdate, M small o, molybdate solution. So in presence of nitric acid, we need to balance the equation. So first the given organic compound should be boiled with sodium peroxide. It acts as an oxidizing agent. It oxidizes phosphorus present in the organic compound to sodium phosphate or the respective phosphate. Here since we took sodium peroxide, it gets converted to sodium phosphate and this sodium phosphate is then boiled with a dilute nitric acid. So it converts phosphate to phosphoric acid and followed by treating it with ammonium molybdate. Ammonium molybdate in presence of nitric acid. What happens? So you will get yellow precipitate of ammonium phosphomolybdate. This is yellow precipitate with the formation of NaNO3 plus 12 moles of H2O. So this is the composition, yellow precipitate of ammonium phosphomolybdate. So this is the detection of phosphorus when to the solution containing phosphoric acid. If you add ammonium molybdate, you will get a yellow precipitate of ammonium phosphomolybdate, and that is the composition of yellow precipitate. Formation of yellow precipitate indicates the presence of phosphorus. If you won't get yellow precipitate, then you can say the organic compound not containing what? Phosphorus here. Okay, and this is about the detection of elements present in the given organic compound, and nitrogen, sulfur and halogens are detected by sodium fusion extract test or Lasigness test, whereas phosphorus is directly detected by converting it into respective acid called phosphoric acid by treating it with or by oxidizing it with sodium peroxide. Okay, and this is about the detection. Let us move on to the quantitative analysis. Detection is qualitative. Let us move on to quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis. What do you mean by quantitative analysis? Estimation of amount of each elements present in a given organic compound. So this is the third step after the preparation of new organic compound or after the isolation of new organic compound from the natural sources. Correct. So the quantitative analysis involves the estimation of amount of each elements present in a given organic compound, and we need to express that amount in terms of percentage composition. Okay, now let us move on to the first one. It is estimation of carbon and hydrogen by Liebig's method. Okay. So in this method, we need to oxidize carbon and hydrogen present in organic compound to carbon dioxide and water respectively. Once we know how much of carbon dioxide gas is liberated, how much of water is formed, from that we can easily determine the amount of carbon and hydrogen. But we need to convert or we need to oxidize carbon to carbon dioxide and again hydrogen to water. And we know the method how to oxidize carbon to carbon dioxide. In the detection of carbon and hydrogen, we used copper oxide. Copper oxide as an oxidizing agent. The same oxidizing agent is used here to oxidize carbon to carbon dioxide and hydrogen to water. Once we know how much of carbon dioxide is formed here, from that you can easily indicate you can estimate the amount of carbon and also hydrogen. So in Liebig's method, what is the principle? A known mass of the organic compound is heated with copper oxide, which acts as an oxidizing agent, which oxidizes carbon to carbon dioxide and hydrogen to water. By knowing the mass of carbon dioxide formed, by knowing the mass of water formed, we can determine the percentage of carbon and hydrogen. This is the principle behind the estimation of carbon and hydrogen by Liebig's process. How we can determine the amount of carbon dioxide and water formed here. So simple diagram I will write here. Need not to practice this diagram, it is not required. So take a combustion tube. And this is furnace. Which consisting of copper oxide pellets. So this is copper oxide pellets. So pellets of copper oxide which acts as an oxidizing agent. Okay. Now we need to take organic compound in a organic compound containing carbon and hydrogen. You know this. A known mass of organic compound. Let the mass of organic compound be m grams. Let us take m grams of organic compound in a porcelain boat, and this combustion tube is connected to U-tube in which anhydrous calcium chloride, it is packed with anhydrous calcium chloride, and again it is followed by another tube, that is another U-tube. It is connected to. So these two U-tubes are connected in series. These two are connected in series and it is filled with a strong solution of KOH, and it should be connected to the guard tube. So this guard tube prevents the entry of atmospheric carbon dioxide and the water vapor, because atmospheric air containing carbon dioxide and water, it may interfere with the mass of carbon dioxide and water that is to be determined along with this reaction. Okay. Now here what happens, this is the simple setup. Organic compound known mass, let it be m grams, should be taken in a porcelain boat and it is placed in a combustion tube. Now we need to pass dry and pure oxygen. So on heating this combustion tube, what happens? Carbon present in organic compound is get oxidized to carbon dioxide, and hydrogen present in organic compound is get oxidized to water, because along with organic compound we have to take the copper oxide here, dry copper oxide, and here also we have copper oxide pellets which acts as an oxidizing agent. Now what happens here? Carbon X, hydrogen Y combines with oxygen to give carbon dioxide and water. How much of carbon dioxide? X moles of carbon dioxide here. X moles, because X moles of carbon is there. We don't know the composition of carbon and hydrogen, how much it is present in organic compound. Let it be X and Y. And Y moles of hydrogen gets converted to water. But here H2 is there. Therefore, we need to take Y by 2 H2O. Y by 2 H2O. 2 is get cancels. You will get YH. Okay. Now balance the oxygen. X moles of O2. Y by 2 O is there. Atomic oxygen is here, but here it is a molecular oxygen. You need to balance it with atomic oxygen. How many moles of oxygen required? Here we required X plus half of Y by 2. Half of Y by 2 is Y by 4 O2. Y by 4 O2. So this is the reaction takes place. So this reaction is important. Diagram is not so important. You note down the equation. This is the known mass of organic compound containing carbon and hydrogen. When it reacts with pure and dry oxygen in presence of cupric oxide as an oxidizing agent, the oxygen oxidizes carbon to carbon dioxide and hydrogen to water. So liberated water gets absorbed in anhydrous calcium chloride U-tube, and carbon dioxide gets absorbed in solution, strong solution of KOH, U-tube containing KOH. Ili organic compound na heat ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ in presence of oxidizing agent liberated water ಎಲ್ಲ absorb ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, anhydrous calcium chloride. And one point you have to remember, so the combustion tube is connected to U-tubes containing anhydrous calcium chloride and also KOH solution. These two are previously weighed. U-tube alli anhydrous calcium chloride na pack ಮಾಡಿ and U-tube alli KOH solution na fill ಮಾಡಿ. You need to take the mass of anhydrous calcium chloride U-tube and KOH solution U-tube. So previously weighed, you know the mass of this. Once the water get absorbed in anhydrous calcium chloride U-tube, so there is an increase in the mass of U-tube, calcium chloride U-tube, and once the carbon dioxide liberated is passed or get absorbed in KOH solution, ಇಲ್ಲಿ absorb ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So water ಇಲ್ಲಿ absorb ಆದರೆ carbon dioxide ಇಲ್ಲಿ absorb ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So there is an increase in the mass of KOH solution U-tube also. Let increase in the mass of KOH solution, let it be M1 grams. M1 grams is the increase in the mass of KOH solution, and M2 is the increase in the mass of anhydrous calcium chloride U2. So increase in the mass M1 and increase in the mass M2. First idu 10 grams irutte, next 15 grams ಗೆ increase ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ increase in the mass ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ 5 grams ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೇನೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 8 grams ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ 12 grams ಗೆ increase ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ increase in the mass of KOH bulb ಅಂದ್ರೆ 4 grams ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ what is the mass of water formed? Here it is 5 grams and here it is 4 grams. In the same way, so the first previously weighed anhydrous calcium chloride, after the absorption of water, its mass increases. Its mass is increased by M2 grams, and here its mass is increased by M1 grams. Therefore, what is the increase in the mass of KOH solution? In turn, it is nothing but mass of carbon dioxide formed. What is the mass of carbon dioxide formed? M1 grams. What is the mass of water formed? M2 grams. And what is the mass of organic compound taken? M grams. This much is sufficient to estimate carbon and hydrogen. Just we need to compare the molecular mass of water and the carbon dioxide, and then we need to consider the percentage composition of carbon and hydrogen. So let us move on to the calculation part. This is important. Write down the calculation part. So estimation of carbon, estimation of carbon. So before going to that, what is the mass of organic compound taken? So mass of organic compound taken is M grams. Increase in mass of KOH U2 is nothing but M1 grams. It is in turn, it is nothing but mass of carbon dioxide formed. Correct? In turn, it is nothing but mass of carbon dioxide formed. Similarly, increase in mass of anhydrous calcium chloride U2, or it is nothing but mass of water formed. So it is M2 grams. So by using these three data, we can estimate carbon and hydrogen. What is the molar mass of carbon dioxide? How to calculate the molecular mass? By adding the atomic masses of all the elements present in a given compound along with the atomicity. What is the molecular mass of carbon dioxide? 44 grams. Correct? CO2. 12 plus 16 into 2, 32. Total 44. 44 is the molecular mass. What is its gram molecular mass? We need to express in terms of grams. Then 44 grams is the gram molecular mass. So 44 grams of carbon dioxide contains how much of carbon? 12 grams of carbon. 12 grams of carbon. Correct? Then how much it is present in so formed carbon dioxide? So 44 grams ಅಲ್ಲಿ 12 grams idre, so M1 grams of carbon dioxide contains how much? Contains, so 44 grams contains 12 grams, M1 grams contains how much? This much of carbon is present in how much of organic compound? M grams of organic compound. So M grams of organic compound contains 12 into M1 by 44 grams of carbon. How much it is present in? 100 grams. That gives the percentage. Then how to get the percentage of carbon? So M grams contain how much? M grams contain 12 by 44 into M1. How much it is present in? 100 grams. So let me rearrange this. What you get? 12 into M1 into 100 divided by 44 into M. So what is 12? Atomic mass of carbon. M1 is mass of carbon dioxide formed into 100 divided by 44 into mass of organic compound. So this formula gives the percentage of carbon. What is how to estimate the percentage of carbon? 12 into mass of carbon dioxide formed into 100 divided by 44 into mass of organic compound. So very simple. Ishtukke ishtadre ashtukke ishtu. 44 containing 12 grams of carbon. Ishtukke ishtagutte. ಅಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಯೋಮೆಟ್ರಿಲಿ ಓದಿರ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು, ಸಮ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೆಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಸೊ ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಹಿಯರ್. 1 mole of carbon dioxide contain 1 mole of carbon here, 12 grams ಅಂದರೆ 1 mole of carbon ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, and ಇದು 1 mole of carbon dioxide. So m1 grams of carbon dioxide contains how much? So that gives the percentage of carbon. Now let us move on to the estimation of hydrogen. Hydrogen is in the form of water, therefore we need to take water here, molar mass of water. So estimation of hydrogen. So what is the molar mass of water? 2 plus 16, that in 18 grams is the molecular mass. 18 grams contains 2 grams of hydrogen. So that we need to take. Now in similar way, 18 grams of water contains how much of hydrogen? 2 grams of hydrogen, correct? Then what is the mass? m2 grams of water contains how much? 18 grams contains 2 grams, m2 grams contains this much of hydrogen. So this much of hydrogen is present in how much of organic compound? M grams. So m grams containing 2 into m2 by 18 grams of hydrogen. Then how much it is present in? 100 grams. Ishtukke ishtadre ashtukke ishtu. Then what is the percentage of hydrogen? So 2, 18 into m2, this much is present in m grams into 100. How much it is present in? 100 grams. Then how to rewrite this? Let us rewrite the percentage of hydrogen. So 2 into m2 into 100 divided by 18 into m. So what is the percentage of hydrogen? 2 into, these two are fixed. 2, 1800 fixed irutte. So 2 into mass of water formed into 100 divided by 18 into mass of organic compound. So this gives the percentage of hydrogen. In that way we can estimate the percentage of carbon and hydrogen by Liebig's method. This method is called Liebig's method. So this is the estimation of carbon and hydrogen by Liebig's method. In the next class, let us consider the estimation of halogen, sulfur, phosphorus and also nitrogen. Okay, thank you.